Welcome back to another episode by Redmond Radio. Today we're starting our Pride Month podcast. Me and Jesse want to keep this as professional as we can, but me and Jesse are really good friends, so we can't keep it professional enough. In the podcast, it's with Jake, our good friend Jake. It's really messy. It's probably going to be our worst podcast episode yet, mostly due to the fact that one, we're still like learning how to do a podcast. We're still trying to find a way that we want to do the podcast. And two, because we didn't know how to organize everything and there was no transitions between them. And we're not used to doing a podcast where we research something and explain it to you. We're used to interviewing someone, having them explain basic concepts to us, if that makes sense. But this is our first time doing something of this sort, and it's really messy. It's super disorganized. I think it's a good way for me and Jesse and Jake as well to know a good way to start heading in the right direction of a good podcast. So just excuse us for being really weird and having some bits be choppy at times, and to have some parts where Jesse speaking just cuts out. We're still getting used to it. There's still like some internet connection issues, but I'll add subtitles. So I know it's a podcast, but for that section, which I think it's like in the end half, it's going to be where Jesse's talking about the history of the LGBTQ community and Pride Month and in general. It's just going to be a little weird. Okay, really sorry about that, but we're still trying our best, especially with being in quarantine, since me and Jesse can't get in like a room, have like a microphone, and then just talk. So yeah, really sorry about the how messy the episode will feel, but we're getting started. And yeah. So without further ado, here's the podcast with Jake, Jesse, and I.
Jake, give us a intro, or else we can't start.
Hello, podcast listeners. It is Pride Month, and so we are doing a Pride Month episode of this podcast. What's this podcast called?
Redmond Radio.
Redmond Radio, Pride Month version. I am Jake Burnett, a licensed gay. I am very gay.
Bonafide homosexual.
So Jesse and Gabriel decided to take me here. I mean, homosexual advice. Anyway.
That sounds legal.
It's your boy Gabe, the 100% certified Mexican boy. Jesse.
Oh yeah, I'm Jesse. I am also here. Oh, I'm black. Down for you?
Yeah, there you go. That's much better.
You guys got to
you're
take my
black? I never noticed. I don't know. Sex is a label, and you can be assigned male or female at birth based on the genitals that you're born with, and based on the chromosomes that you have, XX or XY. This cannot be changed, ever. It's biological. Male and females have different hormone levels. Males have more testosterone, and females have more estrogen and progesterone. There are several people who identify as intersex. They often have a combination of genitalia, different from the normal combination of sexual organs, which are males with penises and testicles, and women with vaginas. Intersex people may have XO, XXY, XYY, or any other combination of chromosomes in anatomy.
Well, gender is more complicated since it changes from culture to culture. Gender essentially refers to the feelings, attitudes, and behaviors a culture exhibits to a specific sex. So this is where people say gender is a social construct because it's how society views, treats, and expects people of certain sex to act. So males are often...
Can I jump in for a second?
No, yeah, fine.
I'm sorry, but gender is not a social construct. Gender roles are a social construct, but gender itself is not. Gender is
but like gender identity is what we talk about later.
Gender identity is what I'm talking about too. Gender identity is not a social construct. It is what your brain thinks that you are. Like, I identify as male. You identify as male. Jesse identifies as male. I think.
Yes, I do. I am male.
One of us could act feminine. Like, I don't know, I could want to wear a rockin' set of heels. I'm not less of a man if I do that. That's gender roles. Gender roles are a social construct. Gender itself is not, or gender identity is not. Sorry, Gabe, for interrupting. I just needed to.
No, don't
since
worry.
you
That
said
makes
it.
sense. It's important to have correct information. Thank you, Jake. Very cool. Okay, so yeah. So gender is how society views, treats, or expects people of a specific sex to act. The World Health Organization defines gender as gender refers to the socially constructed characteristics of women and men, such as norms, roles, and relationships of and between groups of women and men. It varies from society and to society and can't be changed. Now they say that gender can't be changed, like the gender roles and all that can be changed because, as an example, high heels were originally used by upperclassmen who hunted on horseback. Only nowadays, high heels are considered feminine because of how our society has changed. Another example would be that in the early 1900s, men wore pink while women wore blue, but our social norms changed. So but not the colors.
The color stuff actually changed because of Hitler.
Really?
Yeah, because Hitler put gay men in his camps, and he made them wear a pink triangle. So that was associated with feminine stuff. So it just caught on that pink was now a girly color.
Oh, okay. Well, I have a quote from like the 1918s, which I guess it just shows that people did like wear the opposite colors of nowadays. The following quote comes from the trade publication called Earnshaw's Infant Department, published in 1918. The generally accepted rule is pink for the boys and blue for the girls. The reason is that pink, being a more decided and stronger color, is more suitable for the boy, while blue, which is more delicate and dainty, is prettier for the girl. That's really weird. I don't like saying that, but
Association's kind of weird though.
Gender identity is more of a feeling. It's how you want to express yourself, though the way you act, through the way you act or the way you dress. Some people feel like they're inherently masculine or feminine. Others don't identify with either and find a point in the spectrum of gender identity. There's a great video by ASAP Science on the science of being transgender. They talk about how the male and female brains, how they have different sizes of parts of their brains. Transgender people often have parts of their brains that are similar to the gender identity that they identify with. Wait, Jesse, what were you gonna say?
Is this how these things usually go?
I don't know. Is this how these
I don't
things
know.
usually go? I mean, normally it's an interview, so it's a lot smoother. But we just
Sorry,
started
Gabe,
this.
if I'm messing this up for you.
Oh, don't worry. You're not messing this up. I literally don't know how to do this. I went in like a reading kind of deal. You know, like we did notes. We're talking about stuff we learned about. This type of podcast is very new to me, and I guess Jesse ? He might actually know. He's more knowledgeable in this. So when we get to Jesse's section, he's gonna be like a god.
Actually, though, I lost
God
my
of
original
fags.
script, so all I have is 3 pages of notes right now.
3
I mean,
pages.
Yeah, I only have 2 pages of notes. It's not that much. Okay, so the GLAAD, formerly the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, describes gender identity as one's internal personal sense of being a man or a woman. For transgender people, their own internal their own internal gender identity does not match the sex they were assigned at birth. Most people have a gender identity of man or woman, or boy or girl. For some people, their gender identity does not fit neatly into one of those choices. Similarly, the GLAAD describes gender expression as follows. External manifestations of gender expressed through one's names, pronouns, clothing, haircut, behavior, voice, or body characteristics. Society identifies these cues as masculine or feminine, although what is considered masculine or feminine changes over time and varies by culture.
The gender identity terms you should know are cisgender. You identify with the gender identity you were given at birth, which is sex. Basically, or as an example, you were born a man who identifies as a man. Transgender means you identify with the gender identity you were given to at birth. The definition can change, but most commonly it is you were born a man who identifies as a female or another gender identity, or the opposite.
It's just like, I mean, I just did that as an example.
As an example.
And then we'll include the links of each thing we talk about on this in the description box, I guess. Now to sexualities, guys. Very cool.
Oh, I am an expert.
Jake, do you want to do this whole section?
Yes.
Certified homosexual.
Certified faggot. I can say that, you can't.
I can't say that. But Jake
Yeah,
is
that means-
certified homosexual. Thank you, Jake. Very cool.
Yeah. Difference between sexualities. So the distinction is that between sexual and romantic attraction is very different. Sexuality reflects who you're attracted to sexually, which is who you want to have sex with. Romantic attraction reflects who you want to have an intimate and emotional relationship with. There are many sexual and romantic orientations, but here's a few basic ones. Homosexual, which is a term used to describe anyone who's attracted to the same gender identity or sex. Straight or heterosexual, a term used to describe anyone who's attracted to the opposite sex, anyone who's attracted to the opposite gender, I should say. Gay, term used to describe a male who is attracted to other males, both sexually and romantic. A lesbian is a term used to describe a female who's attracted to other females, both sexually and romantic. Bisexual is a term used to describe someone who's attracted to both sexes and genders. Pansexual is a term used to describe a person who's attracted to anyone regardless of gender identity. That doesn't mean that pansexual people want to have sex with everyone. It just means that they don't have a preference for gender identity. Asexual is an umbrella term for people who don't feel sexual attraction. Sexual people can have intimate, emotional, and intellectual relationships, though. You can do the romantic section, Gabe. You're a bit of a romantic, aren't you?
So romantic attraction, some of the terms for romantic attraction are aromantic, a term used to describe anyone who doesn't feel a romantic attraction or doesn't want an intimate relationship quite yet. Or I don't know. It can be like for now, or it can be just in the long term. Biromantic is a term used to describe anyone who feels romantic attraction to both genders and sexes. Is that correct, Jake?
That's right.
Okay. And panromantic is a term used to describe anyone who feels romantic attraction to any gender or sex. And like Jake said previously, it's not that they want to have a romantic relationship with everyone. It's just that they don't have a preference when it comes to who they have a romantic relationship with.
Exactly. I mean, they might still have a strong preference in looks.
Yes.
If you're ugly, they won't date you. But if you're whatever gender you are, they might. Anyway, Jesse, your section.
All right. So I'm going to be talking about the section of history from 1924 to the Stonewall riots. So most people would pinpoint the beginning of the gay movement in 1924 by Henry Gerber, who was a German immigrant. So the society he started was called the Society of Human Rights in Chicago, which was the first pro-gay organization ever documented in America. He was inspired by the scientific humanitarian community in Germany, which he was a part of back Germany. So he also published the Friendship and Freedom newsletter, which is the very first gay newsletter written in America. The group was disbanded in 1925 by the government. 90 years later, Henry Gerber's home became a historic landmark in America. 1928, Atticliffe Hall published a lesbian-themed novel that sparked controversy, but also brought to light issues that gay people were having during this time period. One of the big hits towards the movement towards gay rights was World War II, where gay men were taken to concentration camps or branded with the pink triangle, just the same symbol they used to brand sexual predators. In 1950, Henry becomes the founder of the Mattachine Foundation, the nation's first gay rights group. He also coins the term homophile, hopes to avert stereotypes that have come from years prior. He also helped a former member, Dale Jenkins, set free from prison, which helped bring credibility to his cause. Later, Dale Jennings forms Unincorporated, which accepted women and also published a magazine, which became the first gay magazine. In 1958, won a lawsuit against the U.S. Postal Office, who refused to mail their magazine. So the Mattachine Foundation later becomes the Mattachine Society in 1955. Starts publishing a Mattachine Review the same year, which becomes America's second publication. So later that year, 4 lesbian couples in San Francisco, an organization called the Daughters of Politists, which soon began publishing a newsletter called The Ladder, which became the first lesbian publication of any kind. In 1952, the APA lists homosexuality as a mental illness, which was a drawback as a whole. In the following year, Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was the president at the time, signs an executive order to ban gay people from working government jobs. A couple years later, 1961, Illinois becomes the first state to do away with anti-sodomy laws. The first ever documentary about homosexuality in California, which is called Rejected. In 1955, Dr. John Olivan coins the phrase transgender to describe a person who is born as the wrong gender. Although these movements were happening at the time, it was still common to see gay people getting harassed at bars and stuff. Especially in New York, where at the time it was illegal for gay men and women to drink alcohol in a public setting. So because of this, in 1966, members of the Mattachine Society in New York staged a sip-in, which was a twist on a sit-in, where instead of sitting at a place and protesting, they did is they brought a group, declared that they're gay at taverns, waited to be denied so they could sue. Eventually, at a tavern in Greenwich Village. So eventually, once they went to a Greenwich Village, they were able to get turned down, so they sued the place. And right after, the law against LGBTQ members drinking at bars became repealed. So this leads us to the Stonewall Inn. The Stonewall Inn was a secret gay club in Greenwich Village, which allowed drag queens, homosexuals, and homeless youth. On 28th, 1969, New York City police raided the inn, to be met with fed-up patrons willing to fight, which eventually led to a riot. So after the whole event, there was 5 days of protest, which also helped to bring light to the gay rights movement. Shortly afterwards, the 5 days of protests, the Mattachine Society splits off, forms the Gay Libertarian Front, launched public confrontations and demonstrations. The 1-year anniversary of the Stonewall riots, people in New York began marching in local streets and commemorate the event. This day became known as Christopher Street Liberation Day, and the march is now considered the country's first gay pride parade. Also, during this event, they turned the triangle into a symbol of gay pride. But one of the reasons this felt like such a big win for the people involved is that for once, they were at the forefront of human awareness. People are actually seeing them for once. I guess it's kind of similar to what's happening nowadays with the riots and how helping get some legislation. In 1977, transgender woman Renee Richards got to play tennis in the Olympics as a woman. And later that year, lesbian Kathy Ozenchenko won a seat in Michigan on the city council in 1974, which made her the first openly gay politician to ever win. So 4 years from then, Harvey Milk became the first gay man to be elected in California. He also had a play in creating the first pride symbol flag, which was unveiled at the Pride Parade in 1978. And finally, in 1979, more than 1,000 people took part in the first National March in Washington for lesbian gay rights and gay rights.
Thank you, Jesse. Very cool. Thank you for the history section. Also, Harvey Milk, was it?
Got assassinated and died.
What?
Yeah, he got
Really?
assassinated.
Oh,
It
Do you
went.
guys not know this? There's a whole movie
That
about
was
it called
not-
Milk. It's a great movie. It's just
Milk? Got milk?
yeah, that's what the shooter said as he saw Harvey his body fall to the ground. He said, "Got milk."
Yeah.
what?
Oh, what a way to go out.
Oh no! Not milk.
Oh.
Oh,
So he actually got assassinated by a coworker.
bruh.
For real?
It's very sad, but he did a lot for our community, or my community, since you guys are not fags. I don't think, anyway.
Do you say I'm not fat?
Oh, fags. Fag.
With a G.
The G. You guys aren't fags, right? I'm just making sure.
I don't think so.
I'm not sure I know what that means.
You guys aren't
so,
gay, right?
so that transitions us to our next section. Jake, would you like to talk about it?
Oh, slurs?
Yes.
Alright, some slurs I can say. Okay, so slurs were made to put down gay people. Some gay people, such as myself, reclaim them, like fag. I say fag a lot, because I've been called it a lot. And people hold on, I'm gathering my thoughts, guys.
Jake internally screams.
I'm screaming.
Sure.
A lot of slurs have been used against gays, lesbians, transgender people, not bisexuals. Weirdly, they get all the not slurs. They don't get slurs. I mean, sometimes they get gay slurs. But here's the thing: like I said before, a lot of gay people and trans people reclaim those slurs, like they call themselves fags. Let's say.
Jake, make an outro.
Thank you for listening, podcast listeners. It's been great Don't say faggot if you're not gay. Don't say the N-word if you're not black. Don't say the W word if you're not Mexican.
Yay!
We have learned this today. But here's the thing.
Wait,
We're all a
everyone.
little bit homophobic. Don't let it out too much. Guys, if you see me around, give me, okay, all the eligible young bachelors watching, my number is 425-765-6741. So just contact me anytime.
Oh, what?
Contact me anytime, fellas. I'm here. That's a joke.
What? What?
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I know it at points it felt really choppy. I know at points it felt really messy. We're really sorry about that. And next week we're definitely going to try to do better. Everyone has to strive to be better. You can't just ignore change. Right? So we'll be better next week. We'll try better next week. We'll try our best next week. Whatever. We'll be back again next week. Hopefully with the other half of the history of Pride Month, having some statistics on the LGBTQ community. We'll be looking at country statistics with what countries believe same-sex activities are deemed illegal, or you can get death penalty because of it, or where same-sex marriage isn't allowed, or where trans rights aren't as widely seen, such as they're not allowed in the military or whatnot. Or there are countries where they don't ban discrimination based on orientation or gender identity. Yeah, we're probably we're probably also going to talk about. We're probably going to have a interview with Jake based on what his stance on the LGBTQ community as a whole is right now. So yeah, a lot to look forward to. We're gonna try to keep it semi-professional. Don't know what else to say. A lot of this is gonna be cut out, so you're not even gonna hear me say this. But have a good day. Have a good week as always. And as always, we'll have a resource card at the end, and we'll include some links in the description for the articles and news sites we use for our information, and B, for support for the LGBTQ community in case you're struggling with coming out and whatnot. Okay, thank you. Have a good week, and I love you. No homo. Bye.